Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Working. Nunes is the latest to be asked to step aside after an intense few weeks of grilling from the left, as the House Intelligence Chairman has now recused himself from the Russian probe. Isn't that too convenient for the Democrats? To have the only one involved in this Russian probe who actually seems to care about the truth of the matter step aside and recuse himself. Just to rub our noses in it, Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat member of the House Intelligence Committee, made a public statement moments after Nunes' announcement saying how pleased he was to hear of Nunes' recusal. So now, the Democrats have a monopoly on the political witch hunt that is the Russian probe. Thanks, Nunes. The Republicans have gotten their leverage democratically and refuse to use it. The Democrats get their leverage with smear campaigns and use it successfully. And if we keep allowing them to do it, they're going to continue. President Trump, the swamp is draining us. For Infowars.com, this is Owen Schroyer.
Leading a frontal assault.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. It's Thursday, April 6, 2017. I'm your host, Owen Schroyer. Here's what's on the news tonight.
Tonight, while the Hollywood elite continue to push their anti-Trump narrative, most of the American public is turned off by celebrities preaching political correctness. And the results are all too evident at the box office. Then, is Donald Trump living up to his campaign promise to drain the swamp in Washington? Or is the swamp draining Donald Trump? The establishment wants a bloody war in Syria, and it looks like the president is falling for a false flag.
Even if you were totally separate from this and take no sides of this, and you were just an analyst, it doesn't make any sense from Saud in these conditions to all of a sudden use poison gases.
All that plus much more up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
The reason Infowars Life has 5-star ratings on major third-party sites is because I want products I'm going to use for my family. I take this, my family takes this, and then it funds the operation with the most hardcore, truthful information you're going to find anywhere. So what you find in our news is the same thing you find in our products at InfowarsLife.com.
If I ever forget to take them, I have a noticeable difference. I don't feel good. The nascent iodine is one of the ones that was life-changing for me.
Yeah, I actually have just run out of my super female. I had a few bottles at my house, and I've been taking it again, hitting the gym once again. Very exciting, feeling great, looking good. So, and I know my hair is luxurious once again. So obviously the super female is amazing. I love it.
Nascent iodine is essential. Survival Shield X2. If there's one product that I would say is life-changing that I would suggest, it's Nascent iodine Survival Shield X2. It's got a 5-star rating.
It's a win-win. InfowarsLife.com.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a rough week for the Trump administration. The Steve Bannon ousting got a ton of liberal media play. Of course, Nunes steps down from the Russian probe. That got a lot of negative press. And then, of course, Trump flip-flopping on Syria. This is something that was very heavily scrutinized, but we'll wait and see what Trump has to say down the road. But I wanted to highlight the positives from the presidency of Donald Trump. Even though there are plenty of negative headlines to look at from this week, let's look at where President Trump has been able to get his agenda home. And it seems for some reason that jobs and the economy seems to be where Trump is really hitting home runs left and right. He seems to have had the least amount of obstacles in trying to bring jobs back to America, bring the economy back, and end some of the regulations and trade agreements that we had in the past that were stymieing our economy. So I wanted to highlight these things that most Americans will actually benefit from. We're not going to see an impact of a Nunes stepping down perhaps from a Russian probe or a Bannon being outed from the staff. We might not actually see the impacts of that. But the economy, most Americans will feel the impact of that. So I wanted to highlight some of the positive we've seen from Donald Trump ramming through on bringing jobs back. Now, first, let's look at what he had to deal with that was left over from the Barack Obama administration, which makes what Trump has done even more impressive. This is a story from the New York Post from Quentin Fotrell from MarketWatch. Half of U.S. working families are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, the story goes on. I'm sure you've heard this before. 50% of people are woefully unprepared for a financial emergency, and they say that 1 in 5 Americans have nothing set aside at all for an emergency. 1 in 3 don't even have $500 set aside to cover an emergency. That is quite an astounding stat. And it goes on to talk about things with healthcare and this and that. But the big picture here is that for the average American, for most Americans, they were hit hard in the 8 years during the Obama economy. And sure, people could say that, oh, the Bush administration had something to do with that too. But we're just looking at the facts here. And the facts are that the average American suffered economically. The facts are that financial woes are something that the average American household had to bear the burden of during the Obama presidency. Whether you want to blame Obama or Bush, it's really irrelevant at this point. I say Obama, and here's a little more evidence of that. This is what Trump had to inherit, folks. Record 95 million Americans not in labor force. How is that even possible? Number grew 18% since Obama took office in 2009. This is a familiar growth rate to what we've seen as far as food stamps are concerned as well. I don't have those stats in front of me, but the record number of Americans not in the labor force, over 95 million, the number was around a 90 million as well, a record number of Americans also on food stamps. So these two things kind of tie together, folks. When you're struggling financially and the government has these welfare programs to offer, what are they going to do? They're going to sign up to get the food stamps. You're going to not be in the labor force. That's why you don't have a strong financial backing, a strong emergency, cash situation, because you're struggling for work. So this is what President Trump inherited. Record numbers of Americans not in the labor force, record numbers of Americans on food stamps, and half of the United States really just having financial issues and having nothing to fall back on if they were in an emergency. But let's look at what has happened since Trump has been in office. Let's start with this story from Reuters. U.S. weekly jobless claims post largest drop in almost 2 years. So how about that? The jobless claims have been rising under Obama, but it does look like the worm is turning. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits declined 25,000 to a seasonally adjusted 234,000 for the week ended April 1st, the Labor Department said on Thursday. So think about that, folks. State unemployment benefits declined 25,000. That's 25,000 Americans that feel that they don't need to go to the government for financial reassurance anymore. That is the American dream. That is empowering. And why is that going on? Well, let's explain that. How about this? This is from CNBC. Private payrolls grew 263,000 in March, 185,000 estimated. Now, here's the important thing. Small businesses of under 50 employees grew by over 118,000, medium businesses over 100,000, and large businesses 45,000. So these are the numbers that are showing that small businesses are growing. These are the numbers that show that the little guy actually has a chance to compete in the free market system again. They can have their share of the pie. And when you start to make more money, you can start to grow your business. You can start to hire more people. Now, all of a sudden, job creation happens. And of course, these are some of the side effects that come from regulations being cut and new trade agreements being made. We'll get into that in a minute. But it also stems from this. This is from Bloomberg. White House tallies $10 billion saved by repeal of regulations. Now, I remember Barack Obama saying how he was going to cut into the deficit. He was going to stop this spiral of debt. Well, he did none of the following. He actually doubled the debt. But now, with cuts to the federal government, the Trump administration is now estimating it will save $10 billion over 20 years by rescinding 11 Obama-era regulations under a relatively obscure 96 law that lets Congress fast-track repeal legislation with a simple majority. Oh, you heard that phrase, fast-track, a lot during the Obama administration, did you not? And again, all Trump had to do was repeal 11 Obama regulations, and he estimates, the White House estimates, $10 billion will be saved over 20 years. Now, that's just a penny in the wishing well when you look at the national debt. But there are plenty of pennies that Trump has thrown into this wishing well, chipping away at the debt. At least he's doing it. It may be a fraction of the debt, but at least he's actually doing that. That's something we've not seen in a while. Now, outside of the economy, which we'll get back to in a second, there are other positives that we've seen from the Trump administration following through on promises. Border apprehensions hit 17-year low in March. Now, what do you think this can be attributed to? We know exactly what it can be contributed to. The fact that Trump wants to have a strong border. He's not politically correct in his speech when he talks about it. So now people coming across the border illegally no longer feel inclined to do so because under the Obama administration, they felt comfortable and confident they could cross the border and be taken care of. Under the Trump administration, they feel pretty comfortable and confident that if they do illegally cross the border, they're going to be sent home immediately or perhaps even arrested. So this is something they're trying to avoid. And here you go. 17-year low. Customs and Border Protection agents apprehended fewer than 12,500 people who illegally entered from Mexico in March, making it the lowest monthly number in 17 years. That's according to Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly. Of course, the number of unaccompanied minors and family units who were taken into custody also dropped. So this is good for everybody. We don't need whole families coming into this country desperate, looking for the government to take care of them. No, that's not what we need. If they want to come here, we do have an immigration process. We'd love for you to come here and prosper in America. Build a business. It looks like our economy is coming back, but do it the right way. Trump is actually pro-immigration, folks. Now, the border wall. This is something, personally, I've never really cared too much about. I want a strong border, absolutely. I don't necessarily feel like a wall is what we need. However, that's what Donald Trump campaigned on, and now the bids are coming in, folks. All kinds of different bids coming in for the wall. We've got solar powers, making it a tourist attraction. And here's the other thing, as all these bids are coming in, Trump is actually going to look at all of these bids, pick the right one that's the best plan, and it's going to create jobs. So it's kind of a double win here. It's going to create jobs, and he's actually having a competitive market for the bid for the wall. You know, in the past, it would just be cronies would get a no-bid contract, or there would be bid wars, but let's be real, the inside track would usually win. So this is another good trend that we're seeing. Real bidding, a fair process to put forth a plan that makes the most sense economically, fiscally, and for the American people, what they actually want. So it'll be interesting to see if they start to publicize some of these things as far as ideas with what to do for the wall. We had a caller say, make a wall out of old shipping containers, another wild idea. So Trump is going to hear all these ideas, and based on who Donald Trump is and what he's done in the past with businesses, I think we can expect him to make a decision that is fiscally responsible, but also builds a strong border. But we'll see. He's kind of let back on the wall rhetoric for a while now, at least it seems like. Let's get back to the economy for a second now, though. Donald Trump is bringing jobs back to America. Here's a story from investorplace.com. 10 companies that are bringing jobs back to America. U.S. companies are responding to Trump with a series of American job announcements. Let's just go down a few of these businesses. Of course, you've heard about Apple, Monsanto, Amazon, Ford Motor Company, huge. They were going to build that $1+ billion factory in Mexico. Now they're going to do it in Michigan. International businesses, machines, corporations, Walmart, Sprint, Lockheed Martin, Hyundai, General Motors. These are all companies, United Technologies Corporations, Carrier. These are all companies that are now going to increase the U.S. job market. And in past administrations, where it had been more fiscally beneficial to take your job overseas and your manufacturing overseas, President Trump is trying to make it more beneficial to do that here in America. And again, this is something that all Americans can benefit from. So while there is all the negative press out there, let's just remember, there are policies that President Trump is following through with that will benefit every Americans, even those out there that are lazy and don't want to work and want to protest Trump. A good job is going to be coming your way. You're going to get a job. You're going to get a little paycheck. And I think that you might come around on the free market capitalist society. More on the Trump effect. This is from Fox News. Companies announced billion in U.S. investments. So more jobs, more investing, and more companies too. Japan has announced billions of dollars that they're going to invest here. Again, Donald Trump is making it a lucrative business opportunity to bring your company to America and manufacture goods and services here. It used to not be the most lucrative to do that here. He's trying to make it make sense to bring your business to America again. Now, one of the biggest things that he's done and can continue to do that will not just let the free market loose, but will also attract businesses to come here. This is from the Associated Press. Bit by bit, Trump methodically undoing Obama policies. Now, I actually want to go through some of these and spend a minute on these because these are key. These sort of things seem to just stack up and then kind of just get lost in translation. But these are huge. Climate change. Trump signed an executive order last week to deliver on his pledge to unravel Obama's effort to curb global warming. Of course, the liberals are freaking out about this. The Trump administration they launched a review of the Clean Power Plan, Obama's chief effort to curb carbon emissions by restricting greenhouse gas emissions at coal-fired power plants. Trump promised he'd put the coal miners back to work. He has delivered, removing the restrictions of the climate change legislation. Internet privacy. Trump is expected to sign a measure soon to block online privacy regulations to Federal Communications Commissions issued during Obama's final months in office. Now, this is a tricky one. This is very convoluted, actually. Now, technically, it's not internet privacy, what Trump is doing. But what Trump is doing is he's removing a monopoly of data mining and sales from Google and Facebook and now making it so Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, and basically anybody who has your data can now use that data and sell that data. It used to be there was a monopoly, really, with Facebook and Google for those practices. Now Trump has loosened that up and kind of made it for everybody. So that's not really privacy, but it is a fair market if you want to go with that. How about on abortion? Trump is expected to sign legislation erasing another Obama rule, one that barred states from withholding federal family planning funds from Planned Parenthood. Yeah, and part of the measurements that we liked about the Trump Care bill, which was actually John Boehner Care, Paul Ryan Care, was that it did remove federal funding from Planned Parenthood, but we weren't willing to give there. We want the full repeal. We still want that. We'll see if Trump ever follows through with that. Keystone XL oil pipeline. Trump greenlighted the long-delayed project on March 24th, reversing Obama's decision less than 18 months earlier. After Trump invited TransCanada, the Canadian company building the $8 billion pipeline, to resubmit its application, the State Department approved the project, saying it would advance U.S. national interest. Obama said the project would not do that. Of course it will. And he's also going to use U.S. manufactured pipes and steel to get this done. You know what else he's going to use? United States workers to get this done. You're creating jobs to make the pipeline, actual pipes and all the tools that you need. You're creating jobs there. You're creating jobs by having people that actually have to build it. And you're trying to make America self-sustainable as far as gas is concerned. Because we don't need to be going to the Middle East and starting wars for oil over there, folks. We've done way too much of that. Just some more before we move on here. Dakota Access Pipeline, fuel efficiency standards, Trans-Pacific Partnership. That is huge. He flushed that thing right down the toilet almost immediately, folks. This is one of the biggest things Trump did. Obama was his administration's biggest cheerleader for the sweeping agreement involving the U.S. and 11 other Pacific Rim nations, but the Senate needed to ratify it, and bipartisan opposition basically doomed it before it left office. And Trump said, no thanks, Trans-Pacific Partnership, you are fired.
Infowars has partnered with Defender Body Armor to bring you a new state-of-the-art line of advanced, highly tested body armor from InfoWarsStore.com. Defender Body Armor is certified to protect against all handgun rounds and even armor-piercing FN 5.7 pistol rounds. The secret to Defender Body Armor is its proprietary processing technology that disperses more kinetic energy at a rate higher than any other traditional body armor, using one of the strongest synthetic materials ever created, called ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene. Defender Armor is also super compact and lightweight. There's a reason the Department of Defense chose Defender to manufacture their new line of advanced lightweight armor. It works. Defender Body Armor is made right here in America and has received the highest level ballistic resistant certification from an authorized NIJ ballistic laboratory. Defender Body Armor is now available through InfoWarsStore.com, so you can defend yourself, your family, and finance the info war against the globalists all at the same time. A total 360 win.
You provided Alex with the caveman?
Well, so we've been formulating this stuff for a while, and we've been getting these different flavors, and, you know, oh, I don't know about this one, you know, and so I've been taking that stuff, and I'm an old man, I'm 42, I work out 5 times a week, if not more.
I hear you're okay in jiu-jitsu. That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
No, I'm not. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. But the point is that I have a lot of aches and shoulders, and, you know, there's weird joint stuff that I've had issues with for years. And this bone broth, the caveman bone broth, along with our joint formula, has just worked magic for me. And that's just, you know, that's just from my personal experience. I think they're great products, and I think if anybody else has those issues, that you should definitely, you owe it to yourself to check it out. If I'm wrong, then hey man, write me a mean letter. But let me tell you, they work for me. And so,
yeah, they work for me too. We were talking about this earlier. Du and I play basketball, and I'm just now, like, for the first time in my life, I'm 27 now. After I play basketball, my knees are barking. Like it's well, and but the bone broth and the joint formula, like you said, you combine those two. I felt the difference immediately. I felt it immediately.
Yeah, and it actually tastes good. Like, I'm really picky, and I will drink it. It tastes good to me. I love chocolate, so I really like the flavor of the caveman. So, I mean, if the bone broth if the bone broth is really that gross, I mean, I would never have known because it tastes really good. And my favorite is the Super Female Vitality. So ladies, get yourself some Super Female Vitality if you haven't already, because it seriously, it just gets me going. I mean, I'll take a whole bunch of that stuff before I go out and do
get it for your wife then too, or girlfriend.
Right? I go and take a bunch of it before I go do man on the street, and I just start running, zipping around, running right into the action. No fear, nothing. So,
well, that's a big primary part about you know, fighting the globalists, is making sure that we stay healthy and stay clear-eyed and stay honest and stay humble. I hope that we do that here at Infowars. We got a lot going on, and we're in the middle of the fight, so we really appreciate it when anybody supports us, either by purchasing our products, or you can even go onto our store and donate. We're doing this by the skin of our teeth. I know it looks like we're in a $1 billion studio, but Alex has never taken 1 cent of borrowed money at all whatsoever. This is all money that's come from you, the listeners. So you have literally built this place, you know, built this place with your compassion, and built this place with the support that you've sent us. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it, because I know we wouldn't be able to do this, and we wouldn't have a voice if it wasn't for you. So once again, we got to thank the listeners for their steadfastness in supporting us. And even when we make mistakes, and even when we're not right, and even when we might go a little bit crazy, you guys stick with us, and I appreciate that.
Well, our very own Paul Joseph Watson said that conservative is the new counterculture, and it picked up steam, and now it's rolling along, and it turns out that it looks like he might be right. Now, while there are 2 battles going on right now for the future of this country, politically and culturally, I want to focus on the cultural battle right now. This is one where I think we are really kicking ass, to be perfectly honest with you. And despite whatever spin they want to do in the media, or whatever window they want to try to move around to try to say that they are still the counterculture, they are still the pop culture, it's really just not working anymore, and they really don't have anything to back that up. We've got plenty to back up what's going on with our culture, which is freedom, liberty, prosperity, hard work, not victimizing everybody, just being nationalistic and having pride in things that you accomplish, actually accomplishing things to begin with. But let's take a look at what's going on in the culture war and where I think we are actually dominating. And if we can win the culture war, I actually think that that could spur more victories in the political sphere, because that's where we can win numbers. That's how we can become from the silent majority to the loud majority. And we're starting to get a little louder. Let's look at some of this news. Now, everybody is well aware of what Shia LaBeouf has been up to. It seems that the poor guy has completely lost his marbles, but he's lost his ratings too. Shia LaBeouf's Man Down sells additional 2 tickets. Now, additional 2 tickets, you're scratching your head. He sold 1 ticket, folks. 1 ticket. Man Down, opening night, sold 1 ticket. And that was a reduced rate of $6 for a student ticket. So that wasn't even full price. He can't even get a full price ticket sale on opening night. But hey, big news. He did sell 2 additional tickets so far after the movie has been airing. Now, again, who knows what this movie, I never heard of this movie. I didn't know it was out. It only came out in England, apparently. It's only sold 3 tickets. I've gone to a movie with friends, with 4 friends of mine, and we've had more people in the theater. But this just goes to show you how when you do things like Shia LaBeouf has been doing, all the antics he's doing with the "he will not divide us," the anti-Trump stuff, the yelling and screaming on social media, you are going to lose the culture war, okay? Now, maybe Shia LaBeouf has legitimate reasons why he doesn't like Trump, but guess what? The way that he's going about trying to get those reasons out to the public is failing. So look at what happens to Shia LaBeouf. Sells 3 tickets. There's Shia LaBeouf. This is when he started to lose his mind. At least back then, he seemed anti-establishment, like he knew what was going on. Now he just seems like he's completely, okay. I can't concentrate with Shia LaBeouf going crazy like that. But you go crazy like that, your movie flops. So who is going to ask Shia LaBeouf to be in a movie now? How many people do you think are calling Shia LaBeouf to be in their next film? After he sold 3 tickets. I can count the number of tickets he sold on my hand, folks. 1, 2, 3. I don't think he's going to be getting too many more movie calls. Do you? That's their culture failing. Now, it's only getting worse for poor Shia. Apparently, he's at a bowling alley, and he lost his cool and started calling people racist. So it turns out that Shia LaBeouf is no better than the average social justice warrior that we try to talk to on the streets. And if there's ever a mild disagreement and their thoughts or ideas are challenged, when they reach that brick wall, we know what they do. You're a racist. And now Shia LaBeouf has been kicked. So Shia LaBeouf now gets kicked out of a bowling alley because he calls some other bowler a racist, loses his mind. He's been kicked out of protests. He's been arrested. His movies have completely flopped. Here's that video of him being kicked out of the movie theater. He's completely lost his marbles, folks. There he goes. Nicely done, Shia. And now he's running. Oh my gosh, this guy's really lost his mind. So this is how they're losing their minds, and they're losing the culture war. But of course, folks, this sort of stuff trickles down from the top, from the leadership, right? Let's remember what happened to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer loses cool with Trump supporter at swanky restaurant. This guy's at one of the nicest restaurants in New York, at dinner with friends, gets into a political dispute, gets so heated that his guests have to leave dinner because he's so out of line. Then he takes it to the streets. So where do you think Shia LaBeouf got his antics? Look no further than Chuck Schumer. What an absolute piece of garbage, Chuck Schumer. And I'm being nice. But the culture war losing continues. Let's not forget Kendall Jenner's Pepsi commercial that got pulled, 24 hours after it aired? I didn't think much of this I had people at the office saying, look at this propaganda. This Pepsi commercial is unbelievable. And what happened? They had to pull it because it failed, because it had so much backlash, not just from the right. In fact, the right didn't even care. I didn't even care. I was like, whatever. Do your little propaganda commercial. Nobody cares about it anymore. Nobody cares what Kendall Jenner thinks. She is an intellectual nitwit. She's a model, notorious for not being smart. No offense to models. It's just a stereotype. So they run this Pepsi commercial. They try to inject so much propaganda into one commercial that it completely fails. It completely implodes on itself. And they have to pull this commercial that they probably spent multi-millions of dollars to make. Folks, the left's culture is failing. It is losing. It goes on. Amy Schumer, one of the biggest losers out there, has to have InStyle do a story on her just to get her ego back into check because her ego is so crushed right now. InStyle had to give her a little ego boost by writing this little story. Dudes, Amy Schumer is not too vulgar. You're just sexist. That's right, folks. If you don't like a woman, it's because you're sexist. It has nothing to do with her behavior or anything she says or does. It's because you're sexist. That seems like a slippery slope to go down. Now, the person that writes this story for InStyle is butthurt because she loves Amy Schumer. She thinks she's the funniest human on earth, and she's talking to some guy who's like, yeah, I don't really care for Amy Schumer's humor. She's a little too vulgar. So she freaks out and has to write this story about how everybody's sexist that doesn't like Amy Schumer. I got news for you, hon. Amy Schumer isn't funny, and that's not because I'm sexist. It's because I don't laugh at her jokes. The only thing I laugh at with Amy Schumer is how pathetic her antics honestly are. But again, this is the left losing the culture war. So what do when they're out in public and they realize they're losing the war? They go back into their little echo chambers, they go back into their little platforms, and they justify themselves by writing a story about how they're justified. That's how the left works. Now, this is the important message, folks. This is the truly important message. While we are winning the culture war, please take Amy Schumer off the screen right now. Thank you. We need to take this momentum into the next series of elections and win the political war, folks. Look, Devin Nunes has now recused himself from the Russian probe. This is intimidation from the left. And now Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, can declare victory over Devin Nunes. That infuriates me. Senate Democrats are blocking Neil Gorsuch's Supreme Court nomination. It will fail. He will still get confirmed. But again, the Democrats are trying to get in the way of everything. It's not diplomacy. It's anti-Trump. No matter what the agenda is, stop Trump. Trump could be trying to cure cancer and the Democrats would want to stop it. So this is the key. As Chuck Schumer is probably on the floor right now complaining about something Trump. We have to win in the polls, folks. Draining the swamp is not up to Donald Trump. It's up to you. It's up to me. It's up to the American voter. When the next round of local elections come around, inform yourself and vote for a candidate that cares about you. Vote for a candidate that's informed on the real issues. When the next Senate elections come around, when the next representatives elections come around, get informed, vote for the right people, do your research, call these people out, go hear them speak, find out for yourself who these people really are. We cannot afford to have another round of elections where people like Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff get elected. Nancy Pelosi, we have to stop this at the head. We, the American people, must drain the swamp.
Why is the fungus? Why is the mold? Why is the yeast taking over? What is going on? What has changed? Dr. Group, the new product will sell out definitely in days. You've been testing it for almost a decade. You've got rave reviews from your patients who've been taking it privately at your clinics. Mycos ZX supports normal fungal and yeast balance, proprietary blend of herbs and enzymes made with high-quality ingredients. It's available at InfoWarsStore.com. We also have free shipping, orders $50 or more, and 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. Additionally, on top of that, and then you fund an organization dedicated to the truth and get something you and your family absolutely need. But you should consult your healthcare provider. This is not a game. This is not a joke. Especially if you have really big yeast levels or fungus in your body. There can be some responses to this as you're flushing it. But why is this product so powerful? What does it do?
So we've been doing research just like you have on what's currently going on. Obviously, we stay ahead of the game because our job is to protect and address the root cause of the problem, which is why I've been...
Now, we want stuff for our own kids.
This is why we've addressed the president, let's address the root cause of America's health problems. But getting back to fungus, it's becoming an increasing epidemic that's only getting worse.
Killing bats everywhere, other animals, squirrels are dying.
Funguses were used as bioweapons.
So why is it suddenly killing so many mammals?
Yeah, fungus is a growing epidemic, and I've been testing this formula and making changes to this formula for over 10 years. I've had nobody... Here's the thing, Alex. When you go to the doctor with a list of symptoms, you can look at symptoms of fungus overgrowth in the body. It's going to show, you're going to pull up over 100 symptoms, everything from brain fog, lack of energy, insomnia, headaches, bowel problems.
Joint pain.
It's joint pain. It's linked to Crohn's disease.
Infertility. What about the obesity epidemic? I know they test people that are really obese and like they're just colonized by fungus.
Yeast overgrowth. I have a study right here by Jacob Titelbaum at the Fibromyalgia and Fatigue Center in Dallas. Yeast overgrowth is linked to an average weight gain of 32.5 pounds. What doctor...
By the way, folks, look, I'm not bragging. We game-changed the presidency. We game-changed the New World Order. Globalism is falling because of you. You are the Infowar. Listen, this is religious for me, okay? I do not bring you something unless I absolutely believe in it. And if we were reigned with $1 billion, I would turn 99% of it against the enemy. I want to defeat them. I'm ready to give my life. Everybody knows that, against the enemy. Please, we only have a limited supply of this. I want to get your reviews. I want to hear what you have to say. For me, it's been incredible. Mycos ZX, antifungal, antifungus, anti-yeast. Get it today. Limited run. It'll be months till we get more. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. Mycos ZX goes great with the bomb defense. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. And you can't support an organization that isn't fighting hard. Look at the response we're getting. We're changing the world together. You are the Infowar. God bless you all. Let's go to Devin in Florida. Devin in Florida, you're on the air.
Great. Hey, thank you so much. Listen, I have bought your product, and I gotta say they're amazing. Anyone who's on the fence, buy it, because I've got Caveman, Superman Vitality, Secret 12, Vitamin Mineral Fusion. I've got the body armor.
Wow, thank you.
Wow.
You're the type of listener that makes it all possible. Which nutraceutical does you like best?
I really like the Vitamin Mineral Fusion, to be honest. That's
amazing.
Really incredible. I drank it in the morning, and I swear to you, I felt incredible. Like I haven't felt weak. My morning was fantastic, and I love you guys. I love the Infowars crew, and I just want to, I want to take this opportunity to tell anybody out there who's on the fence, just buy it. You will love it. I'm telling you, I've never bought a bad product.
What you find in our news is the same thing you find in our products at InfoWarsLife.com. It's a win-win. InfoWarsLife.com.
My, what a tangled web we weave when we mean only to deceive. This is the story of Susan Rice and the Democrats with this Russian probe, folks. They really can't keep their story straight. It's been quite a struggle, and it appears to me that at this point, they are using Susan Rice as a scapegoat. Now, it's very important we continue to focus on this, whether Susan Rice is the likely person that unmasked the names or not, because we need to know who did unmask the names. Now, let's keep in mind, while all of this is going on, the Russian probes, the unmasking, the alleged illegal activity here or there, or the Russian collusion, where is Obama? He's hiding away on a deserted island. While all this is going on, the former president who said he wanted to know about Russian collusion, this was a serious issue, he wanted the investigation on his desk. And of course, now we know that indeed Obama's team was surveilling Donald Trump and his associates. But where is Obama now? Where is he now that everything is hitting the fan? Where is he now that accusations of illegal activity are being alleged? He's nowhere to be found. How convenient. But again, let's stay focused on the issue at hand. Now, the media has tried to distract us as of late from the Susan Rice unmasking allegations with the Steve Bannon story and the Devin Nunes story. Of course, all sorts of rumors about Steve Bannon. Was he already on his way out? Was he forced out? Was he not? Was it mutually agreed? Did he want to be out? We don't know. That was the big story, though, on the heels or on the eve of Susan Rice unmasking allegations coming out. Of course, and then the new big story today was Devin Nunes to recuse himself from the Russia probe, a victory for Shifty Schiff and a sad development for, in my opinion, getting the truth out about the Russian probe. Now the Democrats will have a monopoly on getting intelligence out about that. Can't trust them. But again, let's focus on the issue here, and that's the unmasking. So let's get down to the brass tacks here. What came out was a leak. Somebody from the intelligence agency had to deliver transcripts of General Flynn and whoever he was talking to with the Russians, and probably other transcripts as well. It comes out now that Susan Rice did, in fact, request multiple transcripts to figure out who from the Trump administration or Trump team was talking to in Russia. Of course, they'll say they were investigating Russia banks, but nonetheless, the surveillance was there. So there had to be a process where the intelligence communities, they say, handed over these transcripts to somebody in the security administrations, and then somebody in the security administration said, I need to know the names of these people so that I can do a proper investigation. So then the intelligence community allegedly unmasked these names so that somebody could get these names out. And then, of course, these names ended up being leaked to the public, and Susan Rice is the name that's being associated with all of this. Now, they can deny it's Susan Rice all they want. Susan Rice can say she doesn't know anything, she doesn't know anybody, she's spinning in circles, she has no idea what's going on, and we'll show that in a second. But if it's not Susan Rice, that doesn't end the debate, which is who unmasked the names and who leaked those names to the media. We cannot let this debate go unfinished. But here's Susan Rice fumbling all over herself as far as what she knows or doesn't know about unmasking.
I believe Susan Rice abused this system, and she did it for political purposes. She needs to be brought in and questioned under oath.
Okay, you believe that.
So let us be very clear about this. There is no evidence whatsoever that the Trump team surveilled or spied on, was spied on illegally. There is no evidence that backs up the president's original claim. And on this program tonight, we will not insult your intelligence by pretending otherwise, nor will we aid and abet the people who are trying to misinform you, the American people, by creating a diversion.
How do you respond?
Well, Andrea, this is not anything political has been alleged.
On numerous occasions, the intelligence community incidentally collected information about U.S. citizens involved in the Trump transition.
I know nothing about this.
I see nothing. I know nothing.
I was surprised to see reports from Chairman Nunes on that count today.
I have confirmed that additional names of Trump transition team members were unmasked.
And there were occasions when I would receive a report in which a U.S. person was referred to. So the notion that, which some people are trying to suggest, that by asking for the identity of an American person, that is the same as leaking it, is completely false. There's no equivalence between so-called unmasking and leaking.
She requested the unmasking, and she didn't just do it once or twice, she did it dozens of times. The White House counsel identified Rice as the person responsible for the unmasking after examining Rice's documents log requests. So apparently when they get these things unmasked, they have to, like, put their name in a log. So one thing good about our government is we have lots of paper trails for everything.
It was not uncommon. In fact, it was necessary at times to make those requests to find out the identity of U.S. officials on every topic under the sun when it seemed relevant.
Okay. It is biblical that Mike Cernovich, investigative journalist, lawyer,
filmmaker. He got the leak directly from the big outfit. Our intel is it's Bloomberg, but he wants to leave his source alone. Bloomberg, within an hour of him publishes their own thing confirming everything Cernovich said, and no one on the news will even say his name. One time on CNN, they said, oh, he's fake news.
Right-wing media types peddling a fake scandal. What is it? Well,
They don't attack the fact that it's a real story. Or CNN calls it a fake scandal. They don't call it a fake story. They say, oh, the scandal's fake.
Details about U.S. persons associated with the incoming administration, details with little or no apparent foreign intelligence value, were widely disseminated in intelligence community reporting.
It was not then typically broadly disseminated throughout the national security community or the government.
She ordered detailed spreadsheets on Trump campaign officials. That information was made available to 16 other intelligence agencies and subsequently leaked. The information was obtained from surveillance of those people.
That's gotta hurt. Absolutely not for any political purposes to spy, expose anything. But
Did you leak the name of Mike Flynn?
I leaked nothing to nobody, and never have and never would.
Can she reveal the identity of the American for a purpose other than national security? Absolutely not. Can she ask for more Americans involved and then unmask them and say to her boss, by the way, guess what Trump and Manafort were talking about last night? You know what that's called? That's called espionage.
Last but not least, my favorite.
I want to be clear, none of this surveillance was related to Russia or the investigation of Russian activities or of the Trump team.
Can you say definitively that there was collusion? There were people affiliated with the Trump campaign who were working with Russians?
I don't think we can say anything definitively at this point. We are still at the very early stage of the investigation. The only thing I can say is that it would be irresponsible for us not to get to the bottom of this.
And part of his administration already said we were going to scatter, we were going to get as much information, we were going to scatter it out there publicly to try to harm the Trump administration. This was a witch hunt that began with the Obama administration, sour grapes on the way out the door. They were going to use the intelligence apparatus to attack Trump, and I think they did.
And get as much intelligence as you can before President Obama leaves the administration, because I had a fear that somehow that information would disappear with the senior people who left. So it would be hidden away in the bureaucracy, that the Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff's dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods, meaning we would no longer have access to that intelligence. So I became very worried because not enough was coming out into the open, and I knew that there was more.
I leaked nothing to nobody, and never have and never would. I know nothing about this.
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research, and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities, and it's tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. Do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician, because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician, because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free. We can answer your questions, 888-253-3139.
Syrian Girl, tell us from your perspective, what you're seeing there with this false narrative.
Last time in 2013, I actually told Alex Jones that this false flag attack would result not in an invasion of Syria, but basically disarmament. This was before Putin even said anything about disarmament. And the reason I know that is because I know that the US would never invade a nation that they know possesses chemical weapons or any sort of weapon of mass destruction. And they had to remove those weapons in order to enter the Syrian sphere. And that is exactly what I said would happen, that a few years down the line, they would come back and claim that Syria didn't, in fact, get rid of its chemical weapons, and they would use it as a casus belli to invade. And we've seen that happen with Iraq. It's exactly the same thing. In 1991, Iraq got rid of its chemical weapons. In 2003, in spite of the OPCW saying that Iraq no longer has chemical weapons, the Iraq war still happened. And we end up with ISIS, we end up with terrorism around the world, we end up with chaos, and we end up on the brink of World War III.
Well, it's the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. This is an organization that is tasked by the Security Council of the UN to go around and examine whether or not these people had these weapons. And as this happened, the response from the Russian spokesman, Zakharova, said it is crucial to call upon an OPCW fact-finding mission in charge of investigating the use of chemical weapons in Syria to collect evidence of the incident after the following condition. Composition of the fact-finding mission will be submitted to the UN Security Council for approval. It will be balanced in terms of geographical representation. So if we're going to go to war, if we're going to set the area on fire, if we're going to escalate this, can't we at least have a reasonable investigation and hope that there are going to be people from both sides taking a look at this and presenting forensic evidence before we just run off half-cocked and start shooting the world up?
Well, wait a minute, David. Turkey has done 3 autopsies on some of the victims, and they say sarin gas was used by Assad. So I'm sure Turkey is completely non-biased here, and they went in and they did autopsies here on 3 of the people killed. So let's just go ahead and take Erdogan. I'm sure these were not the chemical weapons that passed through Turkey via Saudi Arabia.
Do you want to comment on that, Syrian Girl? I mean, the responses that I've seen from that is that if it's weaponized, that they would need to have full hazmat materials, or they would die from that if it's fully weaponized, as you would expect a state to be using. So,
I completely agree with you. If it was sarin, it would have been homemade. Everyone has seen the photos and the videos of the white helmets using their bare hands. Sarin can be absorbed through the skin, and it will kill you. Weaponized sarin will kill thousands. The Tokyo sarin attack resulted in 12 dead, but 4,000 injuries, and that was homemade sarin alone. If it was weaponized sarin, we would be looking at a completely different scenario. Obviously, it's very interesting that Turkey would come out and say that it is, in fact, sarin, because we've seen the narrative shift so many different times. At first, they said it was sarin. Then they said it was chlorine. They can't quite decide on a narrative, because if they say it's sarin, people then say, well, Syria got rid of its sarin, so how could it be Syrian sarin? So then it comes back to the fact that there's been multiple reports that the rebels have chemical weapons, that they have sarin, that Hillary Clinton brought Libya's chemical weapons to the Syrian rebels. This is the Seymour Hersh article. And in fact, the United Nations said that they suspected the attack that happened in 2013 was behind what the rebels were behind. This was Carle Del Ponte. You can also look that up. So we have a lot of evidence that this is a false flag. In fact, more evidence than last time. Last time it was very well timed because the OPCW had arrived in Damascus the same exact day as the chemical attack happened. And that was because they were brought to Damascus by the Syrian government to investigate a chemical attack that was conducted by the rebels in Aleppo a month earlier. And now we have also, again, perfect timing. Trump says Assad is no longer a priority. The next day, 2 days later, you get this false flag attack, and suddenly Trump is changing his tune.
That's right, because we have different advisors in place.
Exactly. And Michael Flynn, he was one of the advisors that said that he believed possibly the rebel attack in 2013 was a false flag. And maybe that's one of the reasons he was removed.
Yes.
I do want to get into two things. I want to get into a little bit about the evidence and a lot about the real agenda behind this and what we're going to see, if possible.
Yeah, let's talk about the false flag aspect. But before we leave the Michael Flynn thing, it's very clear that not only did they want Michael Flynn removed, but they have tried to purge people that he brought in. The CIA made it very clear. We've had a lot of media reporting, both for and against Trump, reporting that the CIA has said that these individuals that Flynn brought in were unacceptable to them. Why? Because they want to do this false flag. So let's talk about the evidence that this particular attack was a false flag.
Well, putting aside the perfect timing that this happened, where the State Department just made a statement that they no longer see removing Assad as a priority, and that the Syrian people must decide their own president. Aside from that, a lot of the reports are coming from the so-called White Helmets NGO, which is George Soros funded. It's receiving UK and US tax dollars. And they've been filmed carrying Al-Qaeda flags around, taking part in executions, hanging out with the child beheaders of the Nur al-Zinki group, one of the rebel groups that the CIA vetted and gave weapons to, which ended up beheading a child. Channel 4 News featured a video of those child beheaders hanging out with the White Helmets. I, on one of my channels, Syrian Girl War, have a video of 2 White Helmet members torturing a Syrian soldier. Like, the White Helmets, as we now know very clearly, are the same individuals that are with Al-Qaeda. They just put on a white helmet and suddenly they're no longer Al-Qaeda. And prior to this attack, a week before, in a Christian town in Hama, near Hama, there were actually 250 people that were kidnapped. So it's very clear that these rebels do not care about civilians and they do not care about children. They behead children. So why would they care? And in the past, they've used children as tools, pawns for this political agenda.
There was a Pakistani-British doctor who tweeted out that he had received gas masks and he was holding interviews. He was taking interview requests instead of helping the people as the injuries were coming in. His name is Sajul Islam. What do you know about him?
Well, he was actually one of the people who was arrested on terrorism charges for kidnapping 2 British journalists in Syria. And while they didn't have enough evidence on him, and because the journalists couldn't testify, and he ran back away to Syria, he was actually removed from the medical board because of this incident. And another interesting thing that was happening at the time is one of these, Al-Qaeda-linked journalists posted on his Facebook that tomorrow we're going to begin a campaign about chlorine gas attacks. And then this happens. So once again, the media is unsure whether it's chlorine or it's sarin. They can't settle on it. But there's been uncanny, they can't possibly be psychic, indicators that they've been pre-planning this false flag attack. And in fact, they've been receiving hazmat suits and gas masks days before the attack happened. So they must have known that they were going to use them. The thing is that with Trump, there was signs that he maybe swayed early on. He talked about safe zones. People convinced him that safe zones were going to stop refugees, basically. But safe zones were in fact just another word for no-fly zones. It's just a rehash of that, which in its entirety is the plan to balkanize Syria.
And that's what we saw 4 years ago. They were saying we need to ground Syria's air force and so forth and so on. And at the time, if you remember, when we were talking about the false flag aspects, which were identical to this at the time, we were saying we're not going to be Al-Qaeda's air force, because we knew that we had ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the white helmets, whatever. They rebrand them as they wish. As people discover who they are, they come up with a new name. But we knew what was going on there. We had people like Flynn at the time telling us what was going on. It was eventually exposed what they had been trying to do, but they wanted us to essentially be their air force, and the purpose was regime change.
Thanks to everybody who tuned in to the Infowars Nightly News. Be sure to support us at InfoWarsStore.com. The Alex Jones Show back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central.
I am very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality Infowars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high-quality, known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Secure your Biome Defense in ultra strength or regular strength at InfoWarsLife.com today and get started supporting your digestive system naturally. We've been testing this formula for years, but this is the limited first run to the public.